Hi everybody, Dan Illman here with the DRF race of the day for Monday, May the 27th. It's race number 11 at Santa Anita, just a super card at the great race place on Memorial Day, and it's the Grade 1 Shoemaker Mile on the turf. Let's take a look at this field. It's a big field, it's a competitive field, and you've got Dujour, who's one of the better middle distance horses in all of Southern California, and probably one of the top 10 or 12 turf horses in the entire country. He's won 3 of his last 4 starts. The only loss came in the Breeders' Cup Mile, where he was overmatched, and I thought he ran quite well. He's actually a pretty cool horse that's returned from some adversity to be in razor sharp form. And as you see from this Timeform US pace projector, Dujour, a horse that likes to rally from off of the pace, might get fast splits to attack. Note the red bar, fast pace on our pace projector, and Golad might be the speed of the speed. They tried those tactics last time out in the Kilrow. He probably went a little bit too fast, and Dujour ran him over. But in his prior 2 starts, he took the field gate to wire, going a mile at Santa Anita. It's all about how much pressure Golad will face in this race, and one of his prime pace protagonists is the number 6 Air Force Red. Now, Air Force Red is cross-entered in a race on Sunday at Santa Anita, but if he goes here, he could certainly impact the finish because he is fast enough to push Golad and thus set things up perhaps for some stalkers and closers. It'll be interesting to see how fast the 7 Dominican Pioneer is. He's been on the lead in 7 of his last 8 starts, but he is stepping up in class here, and I'm not sure he's as fast as Golad. Wesley Ward has a couple in here. Perhaps Dominican Pioneer will push the pace. War at Sea, the number 1, looks like a bit of an outsider on paper, but there are some things to like. I'm going to be very forgiving of his most recent start, the Charlie Whittingham, because that was a 1.25 mile race. They tried to stretch him out to that distance, and I just don't think that's his cup of tea. 2 starts back at a mile, he earned a 94 Beyer speed figure when finishing second to one of the top contenders in this race, Johannes. A repeat of that effort puts him on the periphery in a race like the Shoemaker Mile, and he might get the right race flow. If the pace is hot, this horse likes to rally. He draws a comfortable inside post position. Maybe he's a little overmatched on the win end of things, but I think this horse is going to run on late and perhaps make your single race exotics by either running second or third at juicy odds. Dujour is the number 2, and we're going to take a look at his most recent race, the Kilrow Mile. Just a beautiful ride from Flavien Prat. The pace was fast. It was set by Golad. Dujour was able to find the rail near the back of the pack on the backstretch, eased out to split horses, drop back to the rail at just the right time. All this while Easter, arguably the horse to beat, and the runner-up in this race, had to carry a lot more ground. But Dujour was really firing in the stretch. He's been managed beautifully by Bob Baffert. This was a good 3-year-old. Back in 2021, he won the American Turf, and then he missed a lot of time, and he's come back, and he's been managed very shrewdly by Baffert. He's going to get another hot pace to attack, and you can argue he's the horse to beat. The 3 is There Goes Harvard, a winner of the Grade 1 Gold Cup at Santa Anita on dirt, going a 1.25 miles way back in 2022. And unfortunately for There Goes Harvard, obviously injuries have curtailed his once promising career because he's only started 3 times since then and hasn't raced in over a year. His most recent turf start was the Thunder Road, off of a long layoff back in February of 2023. He finished behind several of these horses. I have a tremendous amount of respect for trainer Michael McCarthy, who's going to run this horse here, and turf is not an issue. I think he's equally as good on turf as he is on dirt, but this is a long layoff against a very strong field, so I'll simply take a wait and see approach. Conclude is the number 4, and this horse showed a ton of ability as a 3-year-old last year for Phil D'Amato. He won his final 3 starts of the year, including this race, the Grade 2 Del Mar Derby, and he was aggressively ridden from the start, was able to make the lead after an early move, and is very game to hold on at the wire. That early speed, I think, could work for him in here if he's able to just tuck in behind the leaders, but if he's very fresh off of the layoff, then all of a sudden now he could be on a hard chase after a good pace horse like Golad through fast fractions. We haven't seen this horse in September. I do think he still has a tremendous amount of upside potential. We'll see if he needs a race off the layoff and if perhaps this pace works against him. Give Irideo some pace, give him a trip, and give him when he wakes up on the right side of the stall, and he can upset some things at a big price, as he did going down the hill in the Clocker's Corner 3-back at 19-1. And he was second in the Shoemaker Mile last year at 41-1 when he received a beautiful rail skimming ride. Now, his most recent start was the American, and he was no match for Johannes that day, but he's a horse that occasionally will surprise, and he's going to be a big price in here. Another horse you might want to consider on the bottom of your single race exotics. Air Force Red, if he runs in this race, is a potential pace threat threat as he was last time out in the Grade 3 San Francisco Mile, where he went right to the lead at Golden Gate Fields and he just missed under the line while finishing ahead of Balnikov, who returned to win last week's Grade 3 dinner party at Pimlico with a 95 Beyer speed figure. He has not shown a ton of stamina in his recent starts, and again, if he's in here, he's going to be pushing Golad early. Perhaps that works against a horse like Air Force Red. Dominican Pioneer is the number 7. At first glance of his last race at Keeneland and a high-level allowance going a mile and a 60th, I just couldn't see much of an excuse. He went to the lead. The fractions were very reasonable. They basically went a half mile in 49 seconds flat, and he couldn't hold on against Running B, who had a good trip behind him and then ran in the dinner party last week. The third-place finisher of that race, one of 2 next-out winners, came back to win the Grade 2 Fort Marcy up in New York with a 96 Beyer, and maybe Dominican Pioneer just needed the race. It was his first start since November, and looking over his form, it seems like he does his best running in his second start of the form cycle, so that's what we're going to get here from the 7, Dominican Pioneer. That being said, up in class, might face a faster pace scenario with Golad involved. His uncoupled stablemate is the 5, Funtastic Again, who was entered in last week's dinner party, drew a very tough outside post at a mile and an 1/8, and maybe Wesley Ward decided that situation wasn't going to work for him. He reroutes here, gets a mile, which I think is much better for Funtastic Again, and is likely going to get firm turf course, which he wasn't going to get at Pimlico last week. Wesley seemed very excited when I talked to him about Funtastic Again last week. This is a horse that was pure speed earlier in his career. He seems to have really matured and is now willing to sit off of a horse or two. That could prove key in the Shoemaker Mile. Last time out in the Kentucky Cup Classic, he made a bid for the lead going a mile and an 1/8 on the all-weather, and he tired. Now, he's yet to win on turf. He's only raced twice on the surface. One was his career debut. I'm not interested in that race, where he wore blinkers going 3/4 of a mile. And the other was the James W. Murphy last year, where he set a pretty hot pace and was beaten by a perfect trip winner. He's kind of a sleeper in here with Frankie Dettori aboard. Johannes, the number 9, is a horse that I think has the potential to be one of the top middle distance horses in Southern California. He's won 4 of his last 5 starts, including this race, his first start off of an 11-month layoff in the American last time out. He got a very nice ride from Umberto Rispoli. The pace was fast. Johannes was able to save ground. He gets to the outside, and he fires home to beat 3 of these. And the 9th place finisher then came back to win the Whittingham one, stretching out in a Grade 2. That's Gold Phoenix, who was 4th in last year's Breeders' Cup Turf. Gold Phoenix earned a 98 Beyer when winning the Whittingham. I still think this horse is all upside. His first start off the long layoff, he showed no rust. Now he's going to have to prove it against tougher horses, but his tactical ability allows him to pretty much adapt to any sort of pace scenario. Golad is up next. He wired him in the Thunder Road 2 starts back over a turf course with some give. They tried him in the Kilroe last time out, another turf course with some give. He went very fast. You saw Dujour and Easter were a little bit too much for him. It's all about how fast he goes early. If he goes too fast, he might burn himself out. We saw Easter run second in the Kilroe. That snapped a 3-race win streak. He's been in super form for the D'Amato barn, and you could make the argument that if you reverse the trips, maybe you reverse the outcome in the Kilroe. Dujour was able to save all the ground and find the right holes. Easter had to come all the way around. Easter runs well fresh. He's going to get a setup in this race. The pace should be very, very fast yet again, and he's going to be closing in the stretch. His Beyer's speed figures speak for themselves. He goes out for a super barn, and you must respect this horse. Before we take a look at my top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time. Monday race of the day. You can go so many different ways. I mean, Dujour and Easter are very, very logical. They should get the right race flow. They're sharp. They're proven at this level. But I've always been a fan of Johannes, and I really liked what I saw off the layoff from him last time out. I think he has it in him to take that step to the next level, and I think he'll be a playable price. In Monday's Grade 1 Shoemaker Mile at the great race place Santa Anita, good luck.